this video we will try to understand the concept of sequencing of work in an operations system. When more than one job is assigned to a machine or activity, the operator needs to know the order in which to process the job. The process of prioritizing jobs is called sequencing. In sequencing each job on one machine, the processing time of each job, and their due dates of delivery are required. A priority rule is then decided upon in order to sequence the various jobs accordingly. Various priority rules are possible, some of which are mentioned here. Number 1, first come, first service method. Jobs are sequenced according to their dates of arrival. Top priority is assigned to job whose order was placed the earliest. The job order received the latest is scheduled at the end of the sequence. Number 2, last come, first service method. Jobs are sequenced according to their dates of arrival. The job order received in the end is scheduled at the beginning of the sequence. The job order received the earliest is scheduled at the end of the sequence. Number 3, due date method. In this method, jobs are sequenced according to their due dates of delivery. The job with the earliest due date is scheduled at the beginning of the sequence. Number 4, shortest processing time method. The priority rule of sequencing is based on the processing time of the various jobs. The job with the shortest processing time is scheduled first. Number 5, slack time method. Slack considers the work remaining to be performed on a job as well as the time remaining, until the due date to perform that work. Jobs are processed first that have the least difference, or slack between the two. Slack is calculated as slack is equal to due date minus today's date, and then subtract processing time from this value. Now, let's try to understand the sequencing jobs through one process. The simplest sequencing problem consists of a queue of jobs at one machine or process. No new jobs arrives to the machine during the analysis. Processing time and due dates are fixed, and setup time is considered negligible. For this scenario, the completion time of each job differ depending on its place in the sequence. But the overall completion time for the set of jobs will not change. Tardiness is the difference between a late job due date and its completion time, that is, the job was completed late by how many days. With this background, let us try to sequence jobs with the data provided in example number 1. There are 5 jobs, job A, B, C, D, and E, with their processing time and days and due date and days by which they need to be delivered. We want to sequence the job in best possible way such that maximum number of customers get their job in time and there are least delays. The first method that we are going to look at it is, first come, first serve method. In this method, we try to sequence according to the sequence in which they are received. Since job A is received first, we perform job A first. Now, we need to create table 2, it has 6 columns. First column is the sequence of job that we are assigning. Second column is the starting time of the job. Third column is the processing time needed to complete the job. Fourth column is the completion time, which is starting time plus the processing time. Fifth column is the due date, which is given in the problem itself, and denotes the time when job needs to be delivered. The last and sixth column is the tardiness, which is completion time minus due date. That is, how much later we are in completing the job than the due date. If the job is finished on the due date or earlier than that, the tardiness is 0. So, with first come first serve sequencing, we assign job A first, as job A arrived first. Its start time is obviously at 0th time, it takes 5 days to complete the work, so it finishes on the 5th day. Its due date is 10th day. Since the job is completed before due date, the tardiness is 0. The The next job that we assign is job B. The starting time of job B is 5th day. Since job A was finished on the 5th day, a new job can be assigned only when earlier job is finished. Job B takes 10 days to finish, hence the job is completed on the 15th day. Since the due date is also on 15th day, the tardiness is 0. We start job C on the 15th day, and it takes 2 days to complete. So job C gets completed on the 17th day. But the due date was on 5th day. Hence we are late by 12 days, or the tardiness is 12 days. Then we assign John D and John E, considering the sequence in which they had arrived, and calculate the tardiness. Finally, we calculate the average processing time and average tardiness for final summary sheet. The next method that we are going to look at is the due date method. In this method we try to sequence the job according to the due date of delivering the job. Due dates are already given in the problem. Since job C has the earliest due date, that is on 5th day, we assign job C first for processing. Now, we need to again create the table 2. Job C starts at 0th time, takes 2 days as processing time and finishes on the 2nd day. The due date is 5th day, thus tardiness is 0. The second job assigned is job E, which starts at 2nd day, takes 6 days to process, and finishes on the 8th days. Since due date is 8th day, the tardiness is 0. Similarly, the next job A starts on the 8th day, when job E is finished, takes 5 days to process and finishes on 13th day. Since the due date is 10th day, the tardiness is 3 days. Similarly we assign job D and then job B. Finally we calculate the average completion time. It comes to 75 divided by 5, that is 15 days. Average tardiness is 28 divided by 5, that is 5.6 days. The number of jobs that are tardy or exceeded due date are 3 jobs. And the maximum tardiness is 16 days. The next method that we are going to look at is the shortest processing time. In this method we try to sequence the job according to the shortest processing time required. That is how early a job can be finished. Since job C has the shortest processing time, that is only 2 days, we assign job C first for processing. Now, we need to again create the table 2. Job C starts at 0th time, takes 2 days as processing time and finishes on the 2nd day. The due date is 5th day, thus tardiness is 0. The second job assigned is job A, which starts at 2nd day, takes 5 days to process, and finishes on the 7th days. Since due date is 10th day, the tardiness is 0. Similarly, the next job E starts on the 7th day, when job A is finished, takes 6 days to process and finishes on 13th day. Since the due date is 8th day, the tardiness is 5 days. Similarly we assign job D and then job B. Finally we calculate the average completion time. It comes to 74 divided by 5, that is 14.80 days. Average tardiness is 30 divided by 5, that is 6 days. The number of jobs that are tardy or exceeded due date are 3 jobs. And the maximum tardiness is 16 days. The next method that we are going to look at is the last come, first serve method. In this method we try to sequence the job according to the date of their arrival. The job received at the end is processed first. Since job E came last, we assign job E first for processing. Now, we need to again create the table 2. Job E starts at 0th day, takes 6 days as processing time and finishes on the 6th day. The due date is 8th day, thus tardiness is 0. The second job assigned is job D, which starts at 6th day, takes 8 days to process, and finishes on the 14th days. Since due date is 12th day, the tardiness is 2 days. Similarly, the next job C starts on the 14th day, when job D is finished, takes 2 days to process and finishes on 16th day. Since the due date is 5th day, the tardiness is 11 days. Similarly, we assign job B and then job A. Finally, we calculate the average completion time. It comes to 93 divided by 5, that is 18.60 days. Average tardiness is 45 divided by 5, that is 9 days. The number of jobs that are tardy or exceeded due date are 4 jobs. And the maximum tardiness is 21 days. The next method that we are going to look at is slack method. In this method we try to calculate the slack and sequence the job according to the increasing slack time, that is, from lowest slack time to highest slack time. Slack is calculated by finding the difference between due date and today's date, and then subtracting processing time from this difference. We assume that the today's date is 0, and then calculate the slack time for each job. So, for job A, the due date is 10, today's date is 0, and the processing time is 5 days. Thus, we get slack as 5 days, as shown in the calculation here. Similarly, we find slack for job B as 5 days. Job C is 3 days, job D is 4 days, and job E is 2 days. Since job E has lowest slack, we assign job E first for processing. Now, we need to again create the table 2. Job E starts on the 0th day, takes 6 days for processing and finishes on 6 days. Since the due date is on 8th day, the tardiness is 0. Next we assign job C, since it has the second lowest slack, and calculate the tardiness as 3 days. Similarly we assign job D. We observe that job A and job B both has slack as 5 days. The tie can be broken arbitrarily and any one of the job can be assigned after job D. Here we are assigning job A and then job B. After calculations, we get the average completion time as 16.40, the average tardiness as 6.8, highest tardiness as 16 and 4 number of jobs as tardy. Finally, we create the summary table, with all the data calculated using the 5 sequencing methods. In the summary table, we include the sequence method name, the average completion time, the average tardiness, the number of jobs tardy and the maximum tardiness values. For FCFS method, we have average completion time as 18.60, average tardiness as 9.60, 3 number of jobs are tardy, and the maximum tardiness is 23. Similarly, we put all the values obtained from our earlier calculations. We now try to find out minimum values for each column. And the method that is producing maximum number of minimum values for each column is the best suited method for sequencing. Here, we see that shortest processing time method has 3 criteria with minimum values, thus it is the best method for sequencing these jobs. However, we also need to consider here the priority of the company. For example, if the priority of the company is to ensure that average tardiness, that how much delay the company is making in delivery in each job, then due date method seems to be the best choice. Thus, the actual selection of the sequencing depends on the priority assigned by the company. And this sequencing allocation process is the best way to find out which sequencing is to be followed. Thank you.